How you guys doing? So I do this in English because if I was to do this in German, you'll fall asleep. So try to bear with me for the next 6 minutes. My name is Pierre. I'm the co-founder of Searoutes, and we're helping shippers and freight forwarders to make their supply chain greener. So I'll show you a little bit how we're doing this. I like to start with some numbers. So you may be familiar with these. We see CO2 everywhere in the press today. But the part of freight forwarding, or the part of transport in CO2 today, is about 7% of all CO2 emissions at just transport. And depending on some studies, this is projected to increase fourfold, so multiply by 4 in the next 30 or 40 years. So that puts huge pressure on people like IKEA or Nike, shippers, to try to reduce their emission caused by transport. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is, people consume more green today. Maybe you're buying, you stop consuming milk because it's emitting too much CO2. Maybe you want to buy tables from IKEA that are carbon neutral. So consumers are more and more sensitive to this, and this is putting pressure on shippers. So what are shippers doing? And how can these guys, IKEA, Nike, reduce their CO2 footprint today? How do they do it? So the problem is, the tools that they have today to measure how much CO2 they're emitting caused by transport, they're not too good. Here's an example of CO2 numbers that are on the Asia-North America trade lane. So this is maritime only. And today, if you're using some of the models that are out there, in these 3 different scenarios, you get the same amount of emissions. So it's very difficult for shippers to make a decision on saying, well, I'd like to use this service or that service to try to emit less CO2. But in fact, these 3 scenarios are all completely different. They're on different vessels, they're traveling different speeds, different distance, they're going through different weather, and loops on which they operate are very different as well. So in the end, the CO2 numbers of these different services are completely different. The problem is shippers don't have that information, so they can't really make a choice to reduce their footprint. So that's what we're doing. We basically came up with a model that measures CO2 better, and we give it to shippers and freight forwarders so that they can make the right decision and therefore reduce their CO2 emissions. We're a small team, but we're growing. So we have an office in Hamburg, and I'm still learning to speak German. And we have an office in Marseille, which is completely closed today because of Corona, so everybody's working remote. But the team is growing pretty fast. I'll go forward and then come back. The company was started last year, so we're about 18 months old, and we've been ramping up our operations with an office at The Box, which is the accelerator CMA CGM in France, and in Hamburg with the digital hub Logistics, so really in this logistics ecosystem. And this year we'll close with 60 clients and a team of 6 people. So how do we make money from CO2? Well, today we sell this data to freight forwarders and shippers, and they put it in their system to make right decisions. And so it's mainly a license model. They buy data from us. These are some of the clients we're working for. Some of the big ones are CMA, so it's a maritime company, and Seva, which is one of the big freight forwarders. And we're growing. So I'll leave you with just this number. I started the pitch by saying that the part of CO2 emitted by transport, which is 7% today, growing to a third, so 30% in 2050. People are trying to put a price on this. You see in Germany, we're trying to put a price. There's Brazil that's pushing for this. And so somewhere, the price of the ton of CO2 will be around 100, maybe 200 euros a ton. And it's a market where transport only is 8 billion tons CO2. So put a price on this, and that tells you the size of the market that we're in. If you're interested in knowing more, we have a stand over there, and I'd be super happy to talk to you.
Thank you, Pierre.